Hey guys, it's Dani. Today we are repotting an orchid that I actually just received from a beautiful Veronica, and it's a Phalaenopsis that is special, to me at least. I kind of always wanted it, to be fair, never got the chance to buy it, but since we're gonna repot it, I thought it would be a great idea today to discuss about the two Phalaenopsis orchid species that I think everyone who seriously collects orchids or Phalaenopsis should have, because they are super easy to care for, they are iconic, and they are very rewarding, and I would say they're pretty much the best Phalaenopsis to have. So let's get into the subject. First of all, let me tell you about those two orchids, and then we're gonna get to repotting. First off, many of you already know her because not only is she popular, but I always show it off on my channel for many years. First off, we have the Phalaenopsis bellina, which is this one here. I actually didn't notice she has two flower spikes. It was concealed like this and I never saw the flowers, to be fair. But now I picked it up, I saw the flowers, and it makes sense because the smell from this orchid travels throughout my whole house. At some point I was downstairs and I was smelling something fruity and delicious. It was like, well, it can't be. But yeah, it was the bellina from upstairs. Right, so the Phalaenopsis bellina not only is a beautiful orchid, as you can see, but it's also, in my opinion, the most fragrant Phalaenopsis you can have. Sure, we can talk about other fragrant Phalaenopsis, like the Schilleriana or other stuff, but in my opinion, if you are tight on your budget or your space, and you want beautiful, punchy, delicious fragrance, the bellina is the way to go. There are a few variations. Mine is called Ponpan, but it kind of looks like a standard-ish bellina. You will have some that are more indigo, albas as well. There are a few varieties. They should all be fragrant and beautiful. Depends which one you like, but I think the standard looks something like this. Now, with these species, you do not need to worry about the cool down. If you live in a warm climate, you're in luck with these species. And I'm not going to talk too much about them now. I have a full tutorial on the Polychilus subgenus of Phalaenopsis, which the bellina is. I'll link you to it down below. Bottom line, the bellina is such an iconic orchid that I think everybody should have. Be sure you don't overpay for it. It might be mildly more expensive than your typical, Phalaenopsis or flower shop Phalaenopsis, depends. But definitely it's not a quote-unquote rare orchid or anything of the sorts. Check out multiple vendors in your area for the best price. And because it's just so popular, typically many nurseries do stock it or restock it frequently. So at some point you will come across it. And yeah, try not to overpay for it. If it's mildly more expensive, that's fine. Depends on the territory, but yeah, just check out the prices, because sometimes people want to take advantage. If an orchid is very popular, they might want to take advantage and increase the price tremendously. Right, this is the bellina. The second very iconic Phalaenopsis that is in the same subgenus as the bellina, it's a Polychilus, it blooms in the summertime, doesn't need a cool down, is the Phalaenopsis violacea. Now, I don't actually think I ever had a pure violacea. I kind of have had hybrids. Not that I am too keen on the violacea, but Phalaenopsis violacea, as the name suggests, is a violet looking like orchid, purple orchid that is just as beautiful, I would say, as the bellina. But the fragrance, in my opinion, even though strong and beautiful, is just not as nice as the bellina. However, it is a very sweet, warm, and cinnamony fragrance that I do actually like as well. I would prefer more the bellina simply because it's a personal taste, to like fruitier fragrances. But the violacea is the second most iconic orchid that you can have because of her fragrance, ease of care, and the beautiful flowers. And with these two orchids, you can actually find a lot of hybrids on the market. You will find them in many novelty, let's call them. I don't know if they're still novelties, but let's call them novelty. Many novelty hybrids will have bellina and violacea as species parents in their ancestry. Right, now, the elephant in the room, or the question on everybody's minds. Can you mix the bellina and the violacea? Yes, there is actually a hybrid on the market between the bellina and the violacea, and this is called the Phalaenopsis Samera, and it is the Phalaenopsis that I just received. And this is a variety called blue sapphire or sapphire. I don't know if it's a typo here, it misses an E. Let's call her Sapphire. So this one might actually be a cross between a particular, maybe indigo variety of the bellina. I'm not sure, we're gonna see when it blooms. The Samera is a primary hybrid between the violacea and the bellina. And it is again a pretty iconic hybrid, which I don't know how, kind of escaped me. I never had it. Now I do, and I'm so thankful to Veronica. You are such a sweetheart. Thank you so much for sending this to me. So I cannot tell you how it smells or how it necessarily looks like because I never had it, but I can tell you that when I was researching this hybrid, I did read about it possibly being a natural hybrid. Now, if you ever wonder if orchids kind of hybridize in nature, it does happen. Not very frequently from what I know. I don't know if we can properly tell how many of these species are actually hybrids between older species, maybe through DNA sequencing or whatever we can. But anyway, these hybrids could happen in nature as well, which is very fun. Sometimes it does happen that two orchids come from the very same area, like the same actual location. And yeah, hybridization sometimes happens. They are obviously compatible. So if a little insect goes and gets some nectar from the bellina and then goes to the violacea, hey presto, you can actually have a hybrid. Righty then. So today we shall repot the beautiful Phalaenopsis Samera, which for me is a very special orchid and I'm very happy to have it. Can we see a little bit of a difference? Similarity. Yeah, we have that beautiful light green foliage. Mine is a little dusty, it would be a little bit shinier, but the glossy leaves, the wide rounded leaves, we can tell, yeah, that they're relatives. But I would like to repot this orchid because I want to give it slow release fertilizer. I want to give it, my materials that I know how to work with. Not that these materials are wrong or anything. But yeah, I just want to repot, see how the roots are and so on. It actually had a flower spike here, which is nice. It's done now. I'm not sure if it's gonna bloom anytime in winter for me. It might start to bloom in spring. But first and foremost, we are going to press a little bit on the pot just to release any roots that might be attached to the pot. Right, I think we're good. So let's see what we have here. We do have quite a lot of aerial roots, so we will actually plant some of these. Okay. Righty then. So we have a few roots here as well, which are good. Whenever you will see roots inside the potting mix being yellowish or whitish, do not panic. That is absolutely normal. Roots that do not receive light don't invest in chlorophyll. They don't actually produce chlorophyll because their main role is not to photosynthesize. That's why we have the leaves. Their main role is to anchor the plant, absorb nutrients, and absorb water. Not necessarily in this order, but these are the three main roles of the roots. Yes, sure, they can photosynthesize in the presence of light, but if there's no light, they will not. So they will not be green. They will not have the pigment, but they will be hard to the touch. They will be stiff. They can also still have growing tips, which might not be green, might be yellow. That is absolutely fine. They're healthy roots. Do not panic. Do not cut them. If they're thick, if they're not mushy and papery, no need to do anything about them. They're great. But I do see I have some dead roots here at the top. I have a dry root, dry aerial root, let's say. So I will cut that away. And I'm going to look a little bit at the bellina fragrances. Just intoxicating, and I breathe in and I can taste it. It's amazing. So I do have a few roots that need cutting here, but I want to show you something. You can see that some roots are dried all the way to the very end. It's very clear to see, up close at least. So we can cut these roots all the way to the stem of the orchid where they sprout. We don't need this root. However, Phalaenopsis do something really cool. All Phalaenopsis, flower shop ones, these ones, I'm guessing some of the more obscure species as well, although I cannot say for a fact, but at least the Polychilus and the flower shop ones do. And that is, they can have certain segments of the roots dried, like this one, but then continue with healthy segments. You do not need to cut this root, it is still viable. Yes, the velamen on this side will not function, it will not absorb water, but it has a whole entire velamen here which will do that. So the actual root of the orchid is a thin string inside the velamen. And Phalaenopsis orchids can have sections of the velamen gone and dead, but the roots still be alive. This is something I didn't encounter in too many other roots. Or other orchids actually. Only Phalaenopsis are very good at doing this. So I would not cut away these roots unless you have like a ton of them. I don't really have a ton, so I want to keep these roots. But just so you know, you don't need to cut them. If they're dry all the way to the tip, then absolutely you can cut them. But if they have segments that look green and nice, you don't have to cut them. Right, so I think I'm pretty good. This orchid didn't have like unhealthy roots. I have one here that, yeah, it's on its way out. It doesn't look so good. It's mushy a lot here, but also here it's starting to get mushy. You see we have too many segments that look brown. This one is gonna get cut. We don't need it, it's not a healthy root. And even if it's not completely dead yet, do we see it here? Yeah, it's brown and it's a little mushy. We don't need this one, it's unhealthy. We lost a green root that just fell. I didn't cut it, but that's okay. That can happen. We have a lot of roots still. Right, so this orchid is pretty much ready to be repotted. So I'm gonna throw away the old medium and I will pot her probably. We'll see if it fits in this pot. If not, I'm gonna get another one, a bigger one. I have a rePotme one that is mildly bigger. We'll see where it fits. I'll be right back. Alright, so one thing you should know about these orchids is that they will create a lot of roots. Just like any other Phalaenopsis, they are no different. In time, they will produce a ton of roots. So I would not suggest, the orchid is tiny, but I would not suggest you put it in a tiny pot at all. You can see we already have quite a lot of roots here. So what I want, because if you can tell, the only root that was in the medium was this one. I want all of the roots to be in the medium and absorb water. And one thing that I noticed with Phalaenopsis is that they don't seem to suffer so much of the shock of potting an aerial root. As long as I maintain the medium, especially at the beginning, a little bit more on the dry side, which I totally can. It's too dry sometimes. But I can keep it a lot drier than I usually do for a while. I'm just doing a fit test now. Hey, look at that. So try to pot this orchid in a tinier pot and you will not be able to. Right, so what I will have to do is swirl a little bit the roots like so, and yes, she will fit in this pot. And you can see it's quite a big pot for this orchid. In a year, you're gonna have so many more roots than you have now. No worries. So we're gonna put her in this pot. I'm gonna use my typical medium. One thing you should know again is that some of these roots, when you twist them a little, they might actually snap, but that's okay. I actually did water this orchid right before I started filming. I think you can still see there are some droplets on the leaves, but they're aerial roots. They dry very fast. It's not potted. So in the meantime, while I set up everything, the roots got dry. They're still pretty flexible, but they're not super soaking wet. It's fine. So if the roots snap a little, again, it's fine. With Phalaenopsis, we don't actually have issues of roots just dying because they have a snap. They have extremely robust roots, in my opinion. So we're gonna start with moving my chair out of the way. We're gonna start with adding some sphagnum moss at the bottom, as always. Then I'm going to swirl the roots a little bit and try to put them already in a comfortable position, and then rotate a little bit the pot, just so they arrange themselves better. They will make a swirly kind of configuration here, and that's okay. And we're gonna press it down a little bit. There are many roots here, and that's fine. So I'm gonna just add a little bit more sphagnum moss. It's not the most comfortable repot. because there are a lot of roots, but we're gonna manage. We just need to make sure the medium falls in between the bigger pockets. We're also gonna continue with the bark chips, again, as always. And we're gonna try to make the chips fall in between the roots. The bark is not the issue, the moss is the issue, because it needs directing, but we will. We will do our very best to direct the moss where it needs to be. And I'm not worried about adding too much moss in my environment because it's mainly warm at all times. But these orchids can be grown in other types of media as well. You can grow them mounted even if you can provide enough moisture at all times. You can grow them in bark chips, you can grow them in leca even, semi-hydroponics. You can experiment. With Phalaenopsis, you have a world of opportunities because they're just so forgiving. Now, will, particular types of setups and media work for you the best? Probably not. You will find your favorite. And it's not about if the orchid likes it, it's about does it serve you, pretty much. So you'll find a type of medium that serves you, that doesn't require you to water too often, that doesn't stay too moist, and the orchid will be fine. Just treat these orchids like any other epiphyte. And just know that they are some of the most forgiving orchids. That's why they are just so popular, these particular ones in particular, because they're so fragrant and beautiful and just rewarding and easy to keep. Right, so I would say that this layer of sphagnum moss is the second to last overall layer. I'm gonna make sure it's a pretty thick layer because it's at the top, and I want more moisture at the top. Even though moss is wicking, we have that bark as well, and gravity will do its thing. The water will start to go down in those layers. But on this layer, I will also add my slow release fertilizer. A healthy pinch and a half will suffice. And I'm putting this much because these orchids are really hungry. Yes, even these ones. Maybe not as hungry as the flower shop Phalaenopsis. I have a Phalaenopsis, she's incredibly big. She has a super huge flower spike. Those ones, 3 pinches. And as much like liquid fertilizer as possible. Those are on a different level, always. But these ones are not very, very low feeding either, I would say. So for this pot, a pinch and a half is okay with me. For this size of an orchid, she will actually grow more. To be fair, I'm not sure how she inherited, like what genes. The violacea tends to be more of a smaller, should I say, Phalaenopsis, in the sense that it doesn't have very wide leaves. It has more of like longer leaves, while the bellina has those nice lily pad looking like leaves. It's beautiful. I suspect this one will not be as big as the bellina, but I might stand corrected. We'll see. In any case, extra fertilizer does not hurt Phalaenopsis. And now we're going to finish the repotting or the potting with the top layer of bark. I personally use top layers like this, mulching, right? Because I want to shade the sphagnum moss. In my area, sphagnum moss or whatever materials that stay wet for an extended period of time accumulate cyanobacteria. And cyanobacteria is not nice. It looks like algae, but it's not. It photosynthesizes, but it also creates byproducts that, in my experience and in my opinion, affect orchids, affect root tips, stems, and it just smells awful. And it's just not healthy to live with cyanobacteria in your house, in my opinion. I just don't want it. So by shading the first layer of moss, which is wet, I am greatly, almost nullifying the appearance of cyanobacteria, because cyano needs water, nutrients, and light to survive, just like plants, although it's a bacteria. So if I cut the light, it cannot grow. Alrighty, so we are done. What I'm gonna do is go water this pot really, really well. I'm gonna find a very nice decorative pot for it, and we are done. Let me just write the date, and I will come back with some more information. Let's see, it is October 25. Alrighty, here we are. My orchid is watered. I also found a nice decorative pot for it. One thing you should know is that these orchids, as I think you observed with the bellina as well, do have a tendency to lean over, maybe more so than the flower shop Phalaenopsis, and that is absolutely normal, and you should absolutely let it do its thing, let it look like however it wants to. Don't try to stake it or anything. It will not listen. It's not gonna look good. Another thing you will notice is that the flower spikes also tend to be pendant. They also tend to stay hidden under the leaves. That's normal. Don't try to stake these either because they're very rigid, especially in comparison to some of the flower shop Phalaenopsis. They also do not produce a whole lot of flowers like the flower shop Phalaenopsis. That's why they're flower shop Phalaenopsis, because they're bred for production. These are the species. They are more adapted to surviving than the flower shop hybrids are, which are man-made, right? So don't attempt, in my opinion, to stake or train this orchid to do much of anything, because she's just perfect as it is and she will not listen, and it's okay. So that has been it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to check out the tutorial on the Polychilus Phalaenopsis down below. Thank you, Veronica, once again for sending this orchid and a few others, which we will repot hopefully soon in a video. If not, I'll just do it off camera. Been a little busy lately. But thank you again, for the orchids, and I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me today, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!